Welcome back to another episode of the How'd I Get Here podcast, the podcast for positivity, progression, to help you find your own path. We are kicking off season 6.
Yeah.
Season 6. It's your co-host, Jake, Mr. Brown Broken Ugly, living the dream.
It's your boy Spence, King Aquarius, gang. He don't like it. Look, you saw that? Are y'all into astrology, zodiacs, or anything like that? No? Do you know what your sign is?
I don't know.
When's your birthday?
February
What?
9th.
Hey, that's a day before mine. You're Aquarius.
Oh yeah, I didn't know that. Sorry. I didn't know it was
But see, it's not important.
When's your birthday?
January 14th. What's that? 2 days ago?
Capricorn?
3 days?
Yeah.
Capricorn.
Okay. Gang.
What's up? I don't know. Queen Sagittarius just sounds like weird to me.
Queen Sagittarius?
King, my bad. King Sagittarius just sounds a little...
Aquarius.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's the disrespect.
Aquarius, my bad, not Sagittarius.
It's the disrespect for me.
Can we introduce our guests?
Yeah,
I do this all day.
Yo, folks.
So I feel like I would not do you guys any justice. So if you guys want to introduce yourselves to the people, my bad.
Cool. All right. You can go first. We'll just keep it going around.
There you go. Ladies first.
So my name is Lindsay. How much introduction do you want?
Whatever. Yeah, we got time.
So-
Give a
45
30-second
minutes.
synopsis.
I'm from Glastonbury, Connecticut, and I went to school at Glastonbury High School, but I went to college and ran track in kind of a few different places, but I started at UConn, and then I ran at University of Oregon, and then I did grad school at University of New Mexico. And then, so I was a track athlete there, and then I moved over to coaching, and I started at Iowa State for a year, and then I took an assistant job at Drake University, and then a year later I got offered a position at UConn as a head track coach, head cross country coach and track coach.
That's dope.
And yeah, I've been there for 3 years so far. So
Dope.
yeah, that's my story.
Nice.
That's you can follow up with that, bro?
I'm gonna see. But my name is Rashawn Dally. I was born in Jamaica. I grew up in Bloomfield, Connecticut. A current professional soccer player.
Oh, wow.
I am the founder of Rula Sports Empowerment, and I like to consider myself a family man. Family means everything to me, so that's really me in a nutshell right there, right now.
That's dope. You have a family? Like
Not
kids?
my own kids, but
That
my
knows
mom,
about.
my dad, my brothers. I have a small family, so yeah, we're real close. My immediate family, at least,
That's
that
dope.
migrated over from Jamaica, so we try to stick together and support each other.
Cool. You the oldest?
I am not. I have 2 older brothers.
Oh.
Yeah.
There's one older than Nick.
Yeah, Raymond.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
So I played with his middle brother, one of his older brothers in high school.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, no, you played with Nick. Nick is the oldest.
Oh, Nick's
brother.
the oldest.
Yeah.
Oh,
and then
okay.
Raymond is the
middle
older
brother.
middle, me,
Got you.
then my little brother Rulon.
Got you. That's
Yeah.
dope. That's dope. So we'll keep things rolling. You got a question for the people?
I
Or?
do. So, question is, if you had 30 days left to live, what would be the last thing you ate?
The last thing I ate?
That's a good question.
Does it have to be like do you like meal?
Yeah, why not?
So like my death row dinner. I'm gonna get. You never heard that saying before?
Yeah.
My death row dinner is gonna have some pernil, right? Me being Puerto Rican, just some nice, fatty, greasy pork with some rice and beans, with some honey barbecue wings as appetizers wrapped in bacon.
Is that a thing?
You never had wings wrapped in bacon?
Honey barbecue wings wrapped in bacon?
Yeah,
That sounds delicious.
it's great. I'll make it for you sometime.
My guy.
With 3 Long Islands, sweet tea, and a cheesecake to top it off.
Let me ask
I'm
you a question.
dying.
If after you die, that taste sticks with your soul forever. So for eternity, you're gonna be tasting whatever you just ate. Does that change your answer?
Listen, I just named like my 5 favorite things, from the Long Island to the sweet tea, cheesecake, and the bacon. I'm happy.
Right.
If that's my last meal I ever get to eat, I'm with it.
Dope. What about y'all?
I would have to say some home cooked curry chicken from my mom with white rice with some fried plantains on the side.
That just shitted on my answer.
But it would have to be like the whole chicken cut up, because curry chicken is my favorite food. But whenever it's like the chicken breast by itself, for some reason it just doesn't hit the same.
It's because it's too dry. Like,
Yeah,
you need
that's
some dark
exactly
meat.
it right there.
That's a fact.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely don't have a.
If you say grilled cheese, I swear.
No, I'm in between like a breakfast assortment, like waffles and pancakes and like scrambled eggs and like bacon, but I also love like tacos and burritos. So, you know, I think I would I'd go to the breakfast.
You could have a breakfast taco. That's big in Texas.
I could, yeah. I do love waffles though, so I'd probably do breakfast, like waffles, pancakes, scrambled eggs.
I'm hungry as hell now.
Yeah, I've been hungry. That's why I thought of this. For me, I'm doing a sushi boat. Like this entire table, just rolls on top of sashimi, and a strawberry shortcake for dessert. Some alcohol involved, but you were in depth with yours. I wasn't expecting that.
With the alcohol or the food?
With everything, from top to bottom.
Dessert, I would need an ice cream sandwich or cookie sandwich, like chocolate chip cookies with ice cream in the middle.
Man.
Fresh cookie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've never done that.
Yeah.
What?
Like a fresh baked cookie?
Yeah, 2 of them things. In between, with your favorite ice cream in between?
Yeah.
Oh man.
Sexual tonight.
You know what I like about this is, like, whenever you ask questions, I never know what you're going to ask, but it always somehow transitions into the topic. And before we hop into the topic and we transition, I want to shout out Key Bookstore for allowing us to record here again. Get all your book needs from here. We'll tag them and everything that we do. But everything that we named was a sort of like comfort. You know what I mean? Comfort food brought some sort of peace to us, right? And what we're going to be talking about today is like mental health in sports, because all 4 of us were/are athletes. Or whatever. So I think one thing people don't talk about enough is just mental health in sports, and there was some sort of comfort in all our answers. You know what I mean? So as professional athletes, a very successful collegiate athlete, retired, fat and lazy, and Spencer,
high school sports.
But where do you guys find comfort, you know, when you guys are getting ready to play or coach? And I know the beauty about this is, like, we could speak from both sides of it, and we'll get to the coaching side. I know you coach as well, but where do you guys find comfort, you know, before you guys hop into like playing or training or whatever?
For me, I find that in my routine, I feel like just like playing around with certain things, finding a routine that works for me, and then before I play, it's almost like I describe it almost like a time, like a what's that thing called where you got like the sand falling through
The hourglass.
the hourglass. So it's almost like in my everyday life I'm here, and with my routine it brings me here where I'm more focused, and just having those things to lead up to time to compete helps me a lot.
I think as an athlete, and I guess with like track and field specifically, distance running specifically can be like monotonous, and no one really wants to go out for these long runs every single day when it's bad weather. But I think the biggest thing that provides comfort is knowing that you have, first of all, a team that supports you no matter what every day. And then a huge thing that made me successful as an athlete was picking the coaches that I knew believed in me. Like, I could always perform past my fitness because I knew my coach believed in me.
Right.
Like, I'd probably be unprepared maybe to do what I did every time, but somehow that extra push always I knew because my team and my coach was, there.
Had your back. Yeah, that for me, one of my biggest things was that. if I knew I had somebody that believed in me, all that other stuff didn't really matter. You know what I mean? Because it was like, even if I messed up, and growing up playing for Oakwood, and you too, how high demand it was. You know what I mean? But it was like the good coaching staff kind of alleviated that.
Yep.
And it's something that you said, and I just want to play devil's advocate, routine, right? So I used to try and set a routine, but for me, I'm so superstitious that if one thing was off, like I would feel in my head like, oh shit, now I'm gonna play bad because I didn't eat my Cheerios today. Like, right. You ever feel like play those mental games with your head if like your routine or if a superstition, are there any superstitions? And if it's messed up, you ever feel like now you're playing a mental game with yourself?
No, like personally, I haven't been a big superstitious person, but I do feel, like say for example, I know I have a big game the next day or something like that. I will kind of be a bit more, like intentional with how I plan my day the next day to make sure that all the things that I like to do to get myself prepared, I have time to do it.
Right.
Whereas there's definitely a lot of days when I wake up and, you stay in bed an extra 10 minutes or whatever the case may be, and just having my coffee or my tea or something like that on the way to training with the right music kind of brings me back to that place. So to answer your question, I don't get that deep into it where it's like I miss this thing and then it's like, oh shit, like I even want to go to training right now.
Yeah, I don't think being that rigid with your like routine is a good thing. I think it's for an athlete, you just need to be you're going to be a better athlete and just to learn how to be steady at all times rather than like being all high and low. But for me, I'm very just like easygoing, I guess. So I knew if I even felt really bad on warm up or felt really bad that day, I knew I was still going to be okay. So I think once you get through those like games or you get through those races that you still performed feeling pretty bad, then you really can take on anything.
Right. Those mental blocks could be some of like the biggest hassles. You know what I mean? Like I remember sometimes being in warm-ups and then just being like, damn, I don't feel like doing this today. Or like, yo, what if, or I'm going to score today. And I would almost like play those mental tricks with myself to psych myself up
But those are the biggest accomplishments when you get through those games or those races, when you do perform like well, when you did tell yourself at the beginning that you didn't want to do it, or you got through that workout and you told yourself that you didn't want to do it before. So I think those are the biggest accomplishments.
How do you guys deal with like anxiety leading up to games or races and then during races and stuff like that?
I think just using a couple things like before races, well, not races for me, before games and so forth, I like to meditate. I like to listen to music. I like to read. During games, I like to use a technique, self-talk. So I just like continue to talk to myself in a positive way, trying to stay present in the moment to just kind of get rid of the nerves. But really and truly, I feel like getting myself to that steady place, like you were saying, before the game, and then once the game comes, like nerves are gonna be there. Like I feel like you know, that's normal. But once the game gets going, and talking to myself, talking to my teammates to organize them, that kind of keeps me into the moment, even when the ball isn't on my feet. So that kind of brings me through the game.
I think like a technical sport like soccer is different than track and field or racing. I personally think like when in the morning of a race, or for me what works is just talking to my teammates, talking to my coach. I think the more that I don't think about the race, the better, because once I know I'm out there, I'll be fine. So usually I just keep myself busy. I'd rather not be alone on race morning. I'd rather be with my teammates and my coach and acting like a normal day. And then obviously do all the prep work that needs to happen the day of and the morning of, but really just keeping myself busy is how I would deal with my nerves.
See, I was I was the worst. When I was started playing overseas, I would go out the night before and I would either like watch a movie and have at least one beer. Just because it's like I'm not thinking about it, right? And then on the way to every game, I'd have a small bag of Skittles and an apple. Because to me, it was just like Skittles my favorite candy, and then the apple was just like healthy. I don't know. But it was just one of those things. And like I remember being younger, sometimes taking things too serious. You know what I mean? Like thinking, especially when like college started to come into play, like, yo, you got to play good or you're not going to get a scholarship, or putting that unnecessary pressure. Whereas like the older I got, it was like there's always another game. There's always like that next day, that next training, that next play, that next race. You know what I mean? So I learned kind of to like have more fun with it than always take it so serious. You know what I mean? I mean, you play sports, even with your flag football.
Yeah.
I mean, you take that serious, although it's...
Yeah, I'm not like any of y'all.
I was waiting for you to say something.
Yeah, nah, I don't... I listen to music, I'll pump myself up, but I don't want to talk to anybody. I'm literally playing out the entire game in my head. I'm thinking about who I'm playing against, the tape that I've watched, their weaknesses, my strengths, how I can compensate. I'm in my head the entire time. But that's like, I'm a very analytical person, so I don't think I could thrive playing a professional sport because of the way I think. I would drive myself nuts.
It's overthinking. Yeah.
Strategically.
How much of sports do you guys think is mental? Because I had my middle school gym teacher, and I still talk to him to this day, gave me a quote. He said, life in sports is 90% mental, 10% physical. And I changed it a bit to say 85% mental, 10% physical, 5% emotional, right? So if you can do it all, if you're bad at math, it equals 100%. But yeah, you know what I mean? And like kind of Spencer just said, like, he's overthinking everything. And like,
I don't consider it
not overthink. You think about everything, right?
Yeah.
But like, there are times where I used to go watch game film. You know what I mean? Because like on the field, I also used to talk a lot of shit. I mean, even now I still talk shit, but it's like because I could back it up. You know what I mean? And it's also, if I could get in your head, you're more now worried about me than the actual game itself. So the mental side of it is just as much of a battle as the physical and all that other. And if you can't control your emotions, well then you're already out of the game. So how much of sports do you think is mental?
I mean, like I said before, I always thought I overtly raced. So, because I had a team or a coach behind me. So I do think a lot of it is mental, give or take. But yeah, I do think sports it's hard to say a percentage because I think different sports are different.
Right.
But yeah, I think majority, like the mental state goes a long way. And as a coach, I see that a lot. As like maybe my athletes, they don't work out great sometimes, but they race like over my expectations. So like they can be some teams that are really, really good, but when I tell them that the workouts that we do compared to other nationally ranked teams, we're not on the same level. So that's why I do think sometimes if they, like, it just depends the athletes you have, their mindset going in. Like, if I provide a good culture, that a team wants to be there for each other, that goes a lot further than just being run. If they're all separate individuals and don't want it for each other, who's going to win that last, like, 800 or in a 5K race, or who's going to... So, yeah, I think it is majority mental.
So, question for you, if, like, say from a runner's standpoint, with a sport where you run the 400, that's one lap around the track, you have trained your whole life to do that, you know how you can run that race and so forth, how much do you think, like, your mental state on race day affects your performance in a race that, you know, like, that seems so, like, routine, like it's one lap around the track?
Well, your mental state with nerves, like, in the 400, you can't make a mistake.
It's that quick.
Like, so if you make a mistake, like, how can you deal with your nerves, you know, getting off the blocks and making that right move, or like it's like a quick second. So if you are too nervous to, do everything perfectly, then you won't be able to have that, that PR or that what you need to run.
Right.
So I think it's just how you deal with your those like quick races that you can't make a mistake. You just have to know how to deal with your nerves.
Cool.
But yeah, it is like routine usually.
Yeah. Do you guys ever have a feel of failure?
Wait, hold on. He didn't get the answer.
Oh, my bad.
I don't know. I feel like it depends, like, because like when we're talking about sports, are we talking about like in high competition right now at this moment, or just like all the way across the board?
All the way across the board.
Because I mean, I guess I would have to say that most of it is mental. I'd have to go with 80%, but it's almost unfair to say like 20% physical, because it's almost like you need to be paying attention to all those things. But
right.
I think the issue comes in that people don't pay attention to the mental side, and that side, more times than not falls off this way. So for me, I would have to say they're all equally as important, but just in terms of, we could get real technical, like you have to be in the right mental state to get up and go train and all that. I would say more mental in that sense.
The reason I think mental, and obviously like the numbers, there's no like actual science to break it down and whatever. The reason I think mentality is so strong, because like when you have coming from mentality is your dedication, is your motivation, is your, all those things is like, how bad do you want it? You know what I mean? Like that is then going to contribute to how hard you work out, how much you push in a game, how fast you race. Like at the end of a 800 or a 5K, everyone's tired, but at the end it comes down to like, how bad do you want it? You know what I mean? You can.
So where does heart come into play?
That comes into the mental, to me.
Does it? Because I feel like your heart is where it's like.
Welcome to the conversation, buddy.
I'm just listening. Yeah, because like, I guess as far as racing, running around the track, when does your heart come into play with that 100? Like when that person's right next to you, like, oh shit, do I have anything left in the tank? I got to. Or do you just like, well, fuck it, they beat me?
I just think the shorter events, like the 100 and like the dash, are more so technical that it comes with like being able to hit those small moves, like, and being able to be strong enough. Like 1600s a mile.
But even that is probably like a sprint, because you said there's people running 5Ks at 14 minutes.
Yeah, but like the difference between going like sub 4 in a mile and 4 like 20s through a 5K.
I knew a kid in middle school who ran it in 4 minutes. I was like, this is nuts.
In middle school?
Middle school. I remember Andrew Pro. Shout out Andrew. Yeah. Man, took off. And we were just like, is this a joke? Because, everyone starts off hot. And eventually, they get to slow down. My man did not slow down. And he just finished. He's like, all right, cool. Maybe drink some water. I'm like, what do you do in your free time? I'm like, what's with you?
No, but I think, like, the shorter events, I do think there's heart. Like that, maybe that last little bit, but I do think the heart will come more into those distance events.
Right.
You are so fatigued and so tired, and maybe have like a mile left, but you have to do it for your team or something, or you have to do it to run this time. That's when the heart comes into play, or the competitive, person that comes into play.
To me, it's like those like Rashawn was saying earlier, like, sometimes you have little conversations with yourselves. I've had like 80th minute, 85th minute, like, all right, I know I'm tired, but so is everyone else. Like, am I just going to die? Like, I remember my very last professional game I ever played. We were playing Antigua and Barbuda, right? And every time somebody would come to get subbed on, in my head, I was like, I'm about to get out this game. I'm tired. Like, for me, it was like, yeah, like, I'm ready to get out this game. Oh, looked up at the board, somebody else's number. I was like, damn, all right, he's about to come get me. And it was just like, nope, still. And then last sub was made like at, I think, 75th, 80th minute, right? And it was like, all right, you had 15 minutes to figure out, because at that point we were up 3-0, but it was like, all right, you got 15 minutes to not fuck this up. You know what I mean? Because like, you're tired, but guess what? So is the guy on the other team. you got to find that heart, dig deep to be like, all right, we're gonna put this together, or I'm gonna hold my part. You know what I mean? And that's mental, because you are having those conversations with yourself, those battles or whatever, that you could either stop right there or keep pushing through.
So for someone who, excuse me, who has that heart and can dig deeper than, say, the person next to them, like, what is it in them do you think they find where they can find that?
Motivation. Like, whatever. I think part of it is like your motivation and your why. You know, like, why am I doing this? And for me personally, I could say, like, that's partially why I stopped playing, because, like, I got burnt out and I wasn't enjoying it anymore. But, like, my reason for playing, I almost lost it in my head. You know what I mean? Like, before it was just like, all right, I need a pro contract. I need to do this. I need to do that. And it's like, that's not motivation. That's taking the fun out of it. You know what I mean? But then almost like you said, you know, my family, the fun, the joy, the this, the that, that's where you find that, all right, keep going. Like, I know little Jimmy that follows me on Instagram is watching this game right now. I want to show him what fighting looks like. You know, little things like that. My team on the bench, they fought so hard to get us up 3-0. I'm going to fuck this up? Nah, you know what I mean? Just finding those why, for me at least, to why am I playing to keep pushing through?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
No, I totally agree with that, because I feel like the more you're clear on that stuff, like you said, the more your motivation will be. And there's this guy that I listen to a lot. His name is Brian Kane, and he has like the 10 pillars of mental performances, and motivation and what is it? Motivation is something is one of the pillars, and within that, their techniques is to like continue to define your why, and even like break it down, like ask yourself why. Like if it's family, ask yourself why family. And once you kind of like get a clear idea of that, that's where you can always, you know, like dig deep and find that, like that little last bit that you probably don't even think you have in the games. And sometimes as athletes, and I feel like when I used to run track, I experienced this is a lot, where it's almost like you're running, you're tired, and you're running and you're doing the relays, and you know that your last 3 teammates just went, and you hear someone's footsteps coming behind you, and it's like something just takes over your body and you just get an extra kick. And I feel like that's where that all comes from.
That's what I was going to ask, because y'all a bunch of running mofos. So a second wind, right? Is that mental? Is that heart? Or is that literally your body saying, all right, we got more?
I think, well, I don't know, but I do think that usually, like, in the middle of a race, there's usually like a point that you decide that you want it or don't want it, and that's usually when you win that battle. I would say that's the second wind.
That's interesting. He's like, I won't get tired.
I would say I agree. I agree with what you just said. I think, you know, it's almost like you push yourself. Like, for example, in soccer, for me personally, when you're coming, I know you can attest to this, when you're coming off the bench versus starting a game, it's a whole different ball game. You'll literally come off the bench in the 80th minute to finish the game in the 90th minute, and it almost feels harder than starting the game from 0 minute to 60th minute.
Because you got to get warm.
Yeah, so it's almost like, I feel like a part of it is physical, where your body warms up into it and be able to go. But I cannot say anything, you know, against what she just said. Like, I feel like that moment when you decide that you want it and you get that extra kick is definitely there. No,
I agree. I think the warming up also, sometimes it does take. But no, I do think, like, sometimes people feel better as they go on, just because they maybe get in rhythm, or maybe they, like, just get more into it. But I think there's different, I guess, reasons for a second wind.
Yeah. How about you?
I think part of it is a calming of the nerves. The first, like, 10, 15 minutes of some games, like bigger games or whatever, you're hyped up off adrenaline, and you might have made 5 extra runs that you probably shouldn't have made, but you're like, oh, I could do it. And then your adrenaline's coming down and your body's finally meeting here, right? And it's like, okay, I'm not nervous anymore. Now we're in this game. How can I calm my ass down and like just figure this out now? So I think it's a calming of the nerves. But I also agree with what they're saying is, but at the end of the day, it's like, ain't nothing worse than playing 80 minutes of soccer and then you got to still make a sprint, an 80-yard sprint in that 85th minute. And it's like, how the hell am I going to do this? And you feel like you're not really running, but you really are. But your legs are heavy, and it's just like you find the will to just push through it. I don't know if that really answered your question.
Yeah, that sound nuts.
You guys ever have, you want to try it one day?
Nah.
I play in a men's league. You come play with us on Sunday.
I'll watch. I'll record.
You guys ever have fear of failure?
All the time.
Yeah?
Yeah, for sure.
Speak on that.
Oh.
You answered the question.
Yeah, my bad. Yeah. I think that's my intrinsic motivation is like I hate failing. My mentor told me when he became my mentor, he's like, yeah, you got to learn to fail. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I need a new mentor. You're talking crazy, man. But yeah, he'd say I have to learn how to fail because at that time I was just annihilating everything. Like, yo, do this. All right, boom, got it. Top of the leaderboards. Boom, boom, boom. Always number one. And he's like, yeah, you got to learn to fail. I was like, I don't know what you mean. Like, that doesn't sound fun. Until I failed, and I was just like, yo, this sucks. And because I'm like, I guess because I'm not accustomed to it, it probably hit me harder than someone else who's like, I guess who's done it more. Because to me, I'm just like, I'm not used to this. Like,
Right.
I'm always on top. I'm always winning, always winning. Damn, I failed, and then I failed hard. And then it was just a spiral downwards. I'm like, this is trash. But I think he was saying mentally, you need to learn to fail because you need to learn how to bounce back. As opposed to like, oh, no, now I'm a failure. I failed, now I'm a failure. It's not always the case.
Right. And what does bouncing back from failure looks like to you?
I'm big on, well, like I said, I overthink apparently. I'm big on reflecting. So bouncing back from failure is like, all right, I'm not going to fail that way again. You know? So I learned what not to do. And then I might, be honest with myself, like, maybe you cut a corner here. Maybe you could have done this the entire way. You might have learned a lesson in doing so. So I just think back, maybe I just need to go back, master the basics, and learn how not to fail. And then if I fail again, it's like, all right, I guess I got to keep going. I've now learned that sometimes you just have to scrap everything and start over from scratch, and that's okay. Whereas I used to hate that. Did I answer your question? You
did. Because I feel like athletes, especially like you're bound for failure, but we all, like, I've experienced the fear of failure before, but I do feel like it's important how you handle that, how you bounce back from that. And a lot of times athletes are told, like, put that behind you and make you stronger, and then they start acting out of anger and out of frustration, and while that does give you that extra drive, I feel like that's a way to exhaust yourself. So like in terms of like mental health and athletes, I feel like we as coaches and as a society need to teach like better techniques on how to bounce back from failures and use it to grow, rather than just putting on that front of put it behind you and make it push you to go harder type of thing.
I feel like some of that comes from, like Lindsay said earlier, like having the right coaches. There's certain coaches that are like, if you mess up or you don't win or whatever, like you failed, like that's it. Or like you're saying, having the right people in the corner to say, like, all right, this is how we could bounce back from it, learn from it, and so on and so forth. You know what I mean? Like, losing a game or a race or whatever is not the end all be all. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I've had a coach. I definitely have had a coach that, if you didn't run well, they wouldn't talk to you for like a week or two.
Really?
Like, it was very, and I'm not gonna, say any names, but when I did have like a UConn, when I ran the best, like my best, I was under a coach that would never do that. Like, she was I knew she was always going to be there regardless of of success or failure. But so as a coach, I'm like, I want to make sure that I want to make my athletes run as best as they can. So I know what didn't work for me, and I know what worked for me. So I really try to make sure and emphasize that I'm there for the athletes, regardless if they succeed or fail. I definitely that's a good, like, trying to figure out ways on how to teach them how to bounce back, or different ways. I think that's, rather than just saying it, or is different. So that's definitely something that I think coaches should all kind of figure out a way to teach their athletes how to bounce back, rather than just like verbalize it. But
I got you. So my high school wrestling coach, if we went to tournaments, we had tournaments every Saturday. If we went to tournaments and we lost, we knew we were running like all practice on Monday. Like, we're gonna wrestle on the mats for two hours, and then we're gonna run for an hour straight if we lost. So like, to us, we were just like, fuck, I don't want to lose. I don't want to lose because I don't want to just run.
Like, my college coach, guy was a nut. Great coach. He's a nut, right? I think it was my sophomore year, we set like the D3 record for minutes without allowing a goal, right? Because it was like, even if we won a game, we could have won 5-2, right? For every goal we conceded, we had to run a mile. And it was just one of those, like, we ain't trying to run. Yeah, you know what I mean? But it's also like, some people respond well to that push, whereas others also like, yo, we just won this game 5-2. The fuck are we running 2 miles for?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think it's like and I'm finding now as a coach, like, I know what I responded to, right? But I also know not everybody's me. So it's also some players like I can lean into, like, yo, what are you doing? Yada yada. And then some, oh, come here, you need a pat on the back. Come here, let me give you a hug. You know what I mean? But I think it's setting that that fact that, like, is coming out of love, and I'm actually here for you.
Yeah. You
know what I mean? Like, finding that, because at the end of the day, that fear of failure, if you're gonna have it, and this is gonna sound messed up, I don't want to add to that pressure.
Yeah.
Or like, I don't want that to be.
Well, the athlete is already putting pressure on themselves.
Right.
So there's no reason for a coach to put any more pressure on them.
Right.
Because they're already nitpicking everything at the end of the game or end of a race. They're already doing that to themselves. Or before, they're already stressed out of their minds. So really, everyone around them should just try to be making sure that they're calm and not overthinking anything.
So how do we get to that though? Because then, like, sometimes it's too lackadaisical. Sometimes it's like, you don't care enough or something, but like, how? Because I get what you're saying, and in a perfect world, that sounds.
It's definitely an art. No, I think it's definitely like an art. Like, I feel like my job for coaching is trying to figure out what works for everybody mentally, rather than like, everyone can run fast reps and run the miles, but really it's like, how can you get them mentally prepared to be on the track? Or
right.
And that's usually, like, if they're all in a great mental state, then there are endless possibilities. But when, if someone did have a bad race last week, how do you make sure that they are running? Like, they can learn from that and then move forward. So I do think, like, I coach, and they can, I could have them run all these miles, but it's really all about learning the individual and how they respond to things, like you said.
Yeah. You said something great. Great coaching is an art. I fully believe that. Because I've worked for people, I'm like, you suck. Like, you get good results, but like, your strategy sucks. Like, I don't respond well to this. So then I have to find my own way to motivate myself. Whereas, like, I've worked for people, I'm like, no, I want to see you succeed. Like, I believe in you. I want you to do well. It's just going to push me to do even better. I feel like I cut you off.
As a soccer coach now, how do you handle, say, it's the 60th minute, someone isn't having the best game of their lives, they ain't doing that good, and you have to make that change and sub them out for the greater good of the team, but knowing that might shatter, that player and how he feels about himself as a player. So
the thing that I do, whether my players are playing well or playing bad, as they're coming off, I talk to them. And again, depending who the player is, and I probably shouldn't say this, but like, sometimes you gotta lie to them, yo, I didn't take you off because you were playing bad. I noticed you needed a rest. Or, yo, this player fits better in that matchup. Yo, just get a 5-minute rest. You're going back in. You know what I mean?
Right.
Hey, come here. Let me talk to you. You see that one play? Instead of cutting in, push it down the line. You know what I mean? And the same way I talked shit when I was a player, I do it even more as a coach because I can't get in trouble for it now. So now it's like if that kid beats someone down the line and crosses the ball next time, hey, I know something about the game, right? Because they're going to laugh. You know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day, I want you to have a little bit of fun, too. Like, before every single game, last thing in the huddle I say is have fun. I don't care. I've won a championship year. That's the last thing I said. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's like you're coming off the field. Hey, boom, try this. Or I didn't take you off because at the end of the day, I know as soon as I sub you off, you're already thinking, what did I do wrong? I've had kids on hat tricks, right? Subbing them off. Why are you taking me out? Like, they think they did something wrong, even though they didn't, you know?
Right.
Sometimes you just got to tell them what they want to hear.
So that communication is important.
Communication is super important, you know? Or what they don't want to hear. If a kid can handle it, yo, here's what you did wrong, try this, yada, 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 whatever. But it's all about how you tell them what you're trying to convey to them. I don't know if you think that. I don't know if I should have said lie to them.
No, I think that's accurate. You need to, like, I mean, first of all, communication is, and how you communicate things is important. But
facts.
Yeah, facts. But yeah, I think just figuring out what you can say to them, like if you can be like just straight up with them and being like, you screwed up here, you need to like, or here, and you next time we need to do this. There's some people that can really handle that, but there's some people that you need to really be like, really kind of not like baby it, but like just kind of say it softer and say, but hey, we have next week. We're going to do it, you know, next week. And if we put all these things together, you're going to be great in the following week. So I just think there's ways that you can say it, but you have to say it differently to people.
Right. Yeah. And I just like, even really thinking back to this season, I would literally like, hey, he's about to do a step over. Like, because I would do that when I would play and, like, really just getting in their heads and letting them know, like, yo, I'm right there with you. You know what I mean? Like, hey, great, we've scored goals. I'm running to the corner flag with the guys. You know what I mean? Like, I'm one of those – I'm only 29. Like, I'm just as excited as you guys are. I wish I was still out there. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things, letting them know, like, yo, I'm right there with you in the wins and the losses and, like, taking ownership of those losses. I remember my first year coaching at Bloomfield. I've played at such a high level that I forgot I had to coach these kids how to do kickoffs. You know what I mean? Like, you would think it's so simple, right? But we literally started the kickoff. Striker played the center mid played the center back. He tried to play. Striker came and just took it off his foot and scored. At halftime, I was like, you know what? I'm not even mad at you guys because I forgot I had to teach you that. But that's on me. I'm the coach. I'm supposed to prepare you with that. Shows I'm human, and it shows I'm like, all right, I'm not going to kill y'all for everything. You know what I mean? And now they know they could trust me and yada yada, that cute stuff.
I was going to say, at least you acknowledge your fuck up.
No, because it's real now. 5-10 games into the season, y'all still doing that shit. That's on y'all. You know, like, I don't know what to tell you.
But that's why, like, earlier I was asking, like, the level of, you know, like competition we're dealing with, because at the professional level now, where everyone, like, you should know how to play your position, you should know how to play soccer, and I'm not taking away the fact that coaches still have to coach a team and have tactics and all that, but it's almost like it gets to a place where it's cutthroat. It's like expected. You know what I mean? Like this player messed this up, they got a guy right behind you ready to come in and fill that spot. So that level of pressure is different, and that's where I feel like, you know, like the pressures you feel from a mental side in sports can even go up more, like once you start playing premier, college, professional, because, you know, that just that like sense of security isn't there anymore, you know, that lack of control, that like all those things come in one, and knowing that there's a guy right behind you ready for your spot. It can be gone in one day. Right. Yep. So it's just like it's almost hard for a coach to make every player feels like he has their back, if that makes sense, because there's that business side of it right now.
Yeah.
I don't think it's I got your back. I think it's I got y'all back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, this ain't about Rashawn, Lindsay, or Spencer. This is about Bigger Than Goals FC. You get what, like,
yeah.
you know?
I also think it's a little different when you're at like a professional.
Right.
You know, it's like this is your job. Than just like maybe a high school or college as well. I think different levels have different, like, I mean, obviously you want a coach to still support you, but I think it's a little different. But I think one of the biggest things where I get frustrated, and I don't like when coaches don't take responsibility. So like with running, like if your athletes are tired in a race and they looked all tired, it's not their fault. It is absolutely like the coaches, like, also, like, it's also my fault too. So we had a race this season, one of the biggest races, where we went out to Wisconsin, and we ran against some of like top 20 in the country, and we were ranked around there, but we all looked so just tired, and I was like, and they all looked tired, and it wasn't their fault. It was definitely like, let's look back at training. Like, what did I do with them that made them this tired? So that's my, like, one of the things that I never want to fully blame an athlete on a race.
Right.
Sometimes in different situations you might, but usually it is more of like a teamwork. So it's on both you guys, not just the athlete.
So as a professional athlete, is this a lot of, because you said something that's actually really important. Everyone is as good as you. Like, you're all professionals. Someone's gunning for your spot. So does your training show up when everyone's on the field, or do you have to do things on your own? Like, how are you making sure that you keep your job?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You definitely got to do things on your own. You know, every guy has what works for them. But I kind of feel like if after training you wake up in the morning at, whatever time you wake up, but you have training at 9 a.m., finish at 11, and then if the rest of your days is consist of going home and chilling and going about your life, I just feel like you won't be able to keep up with everyone the next day. Like, you got to be doing your recovery at night. You got to be making sure that you're eating the proper food. You're getting extra touches, working on whatever it is you need to work on to make sure that you continue to keep your level and raise your level at the same time.
I'm glad you said that, because one of the things I admire most about Kobe, and everyone's like, yo, Kobe doesn't pass the ball. Kobe doesn't pass the ball. He said in the interview, why would I pass you the ball? I practice 3 times a day, 3 hours at a clip, and you show up late to practice. You're not getting the ball. The ball's better in my head. You know? So yeah, no, that's real. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, with running, they can't do anything.
That's probably a lot of recovery.
Yeah, it's more like the more you can just go home and sit on your butt, the better.
Oh.
After, like, obviously, like, at practice, there's a lot of, you know, working out and running, and then once you go home, you just need to eat and sit.
But what if they're, you know, like taking that extra step to foam rolling, stretch at night type of thing, you know, like usually, keeping them.
Yeah, I think obviously foam rolling and recovery things is important, but a lot of times we do that at practice. But there's always, like, we do pool twice a week, or just to make sure people are, you know, not getting tight. You know, we have those like 20 minutes after practice where we run through a whole cool down, and we have these like blocks where that recovery is there. But then, yeah, you can go an extra step where, you know, maybe doing stretching and stuff before bed, and making sure you're hydrating and making sure you're properly fueling.
You said something. I mean, we've been chopping it up almost an hour now. So I want to ask one more question before we get to the end. You said something about like physical fatigue, right? So how do you, even as a coach, and I know that's really tough, and as a player, stop from like mental and physical like burnout and fatigue? That, because like for me, and this is definitely something I got to stop even as a coach, it's like Sunday I should already know what training is going to look like Monday through Friday, you know, or games, yada, yada, whatever. But sometimes it's like, damn, right now I'm working a job, doing a podcast, and then going to practice. So it's like I might be on my way to practice, like, all right, we could do this drill, yada, and just planning stuff as opposed to like being prepared. And then it's one of those things of like, once the season's done, it's like, damn, like I know I'm gonna miss it, but I'm happy it's done because that was 6 days a week. In your case, might be more. You're traveling all over, so it's and playing as well. So how do you guys stop from like mental and somewhat physical burnout and fatigue?
For me, it is knowing when to take a break, listening to my body. But the biggest thing for me is, you know, like my little practices like my yoga, my meditation, reading a book, just being able to take my mind off what's going on. In the beginning, I use that example of the hourglass coming in, like I'm here and I'm coming in and it's time for competition time. Then after that, I need to get back to here.
I like
where
that.
I could kind of just release everything, give myself a break before it's time to, you know, go to the gym at night or something like that, where I got to get back into my zone. Not as much as on a day where you have game days or training the next morning, but just, you know, like having those things and being able to find joy outside of your sport as well. Because I feel like as athletes, a lot of times, especially like speaking for myself personally, especially when I first became a professional, it was like, oh, you're a professional soccer player now. So rather than being Rashawn Dally, I felt like I'm a professional soccer player. And, you know, your identity gets put into that. And like I was saying earlier too, there's that lack of, you know, security with being a pro athlete, lack of control, all these things. So you have to kind of remind yourself who you actually are,
like that,
and be who you actually are, so you can separate yourself from that, do the things you enjoy, hang out with your friends, and yeah, that kind of, you know, recharges you a bit.
Still get to be a human,
right?
You know.
Yeah, I think like right now I don't live near campus or anything, so I think it's really nice that I can like separate my like coach, because when I lived in Iowa, I lived like right on campus, so there was like no separation. But now I feel like I have like my own life in Hartford, and then I can go to work and be like a coach and be there. But yeah, I think that helps, being able to like kind of separate yourself. And then I like coaching in general, like my summers are pretty flexible. Like I travel a lot for like recruiting purposes, but that's really the time when everything's really flexible. You don't have to be in the office. So I think that's a really good time to recharge. But I think the biggest thing is like when people ask me, like you asked me earlier if this is my full-time job. But someone asked me that the other day, and I was just like, I work so many hours. And people ask me, is this my full-time job? Because I don't think people think coaching, like when you say coaching, some people don't really
everything that goes into it.
Yeah, people just think, oh, what do you do all day? Sometimes my athletes ask me that, like, what are you doing all day? I'm like, I actually do a lot. Like, who plans all these trips, and who does all this, like, the recruiting, the fundraising, the alumni stuff, the, like, I'm like, so it's just funny, like, who does the camps? Like,
yeah.
But it's just that question, I've been asked that a few times in the last, like, month, and I'm like, like, but yeah, I definitely take advantage of the summers.
I hear you. Well, shit. I mean, we've been talking damn near an hour. We like to end every show with your 15 seconds of fame. So it doesn't have to do anything. Doesn't have to be anything to do with what we just spoke about. It could be your shout outs, your plugs, your whatever. It also doesn't have to be 15 seconds. You could just take how much time you need, and then we'll wrap. So we start that way and then that way.
Yeah, so thank you guys for having me here.
Thanks for that gift, by the way.
Oh yeah, no problem.
Is that your brand on your shirt?
Yes, this is my brand, Rule of Sports Empowerment. It's a company I found a couple months ago that aims to give athletes a platform to not only be the best athlete they can, but take care of the person as a whole. So that includes their mental well-being, spirituality, and the physical side of things. So I'm really excited about that. And yeah, shout out to my family, everyone who supports me. Shout out to you guys. Thank you for having me here.
Appreciate you, brother.
Appreciate y'all.
Sweet.
Oh. No, shout out to, so I run with the track club in Hartford, Heartbeat Track Club, which helps me still compete in still a competitive way and keep training. And then shout out to my Yukon squad because they make me love what I do.
Lovely.
Nice.
Big guy. That should be the way you introduce yourself. Big guy. Sorry, I just...
Moving on. Well, first, shout out to y'all for coming. We definitely appreciate it. This was a great episode. And going based on something you said earlier, is routine is powerful. So if you're going to do something, do it always. Oftentimes, and I'm guilty of this, I'll start something, I'll do it for 30 days, 60 days, 6 months, and then I'll think, I don't need to do that anymore. I've already been doing it. I'm good, and I'll transition to something else. So, yeah, if you're going to do something, do it always.
Does that mean you're coming back to the gym?
I'll go to a gym.
Oh, man. Well, thank you guys for coming. This was great. I've been wanting to do something for mental health with athletes for a while, so appreciate you guys blessing the podcast. You're always welcome back. My 15 seconds of fame is you can't always choose your battlefield, so be prepared for unfavorable conditions and circumstances to thrive and be the best you. So with all that being said, this is the first episode of season 6. We're kicking it off for the best podcast in CT, and that's a wrap.
Season 6.